Hello, everyone. So today I brought to you, as promised, the most inspiring life with me on the show. Inspiration of the week is our honorable, ever evolving, ever gorgeous, ever brilliant Miss Bindu Dalmia. She's author of the bestseller book. She is someone so amazing. She lives a life of inspiration day in, day out. You cannot ever miss out the charm she has, her interest, the kind of respect she demands. Anytime she gets anywhere, she actually steals the show by her wisdom, by her nature, by her congeniality, by her behavior, by the rich experience she brings, and she's always ready to share those experiences with everyone around. That's the Bindu Dalmia. I'll give you a small intro about her that will make you go wow and admirable for her always. Okay. So let's welcome our extraordinary guest, very special guest today. She's a social reformer. She is activist. She is a change maker, and she has done so much for our nation, for building the human financial stability, for our youth, for the empowerment. She has a lot of good observation in the fast-paced world of economic and politics, and she penned down her thoughts as a columnist. As I mentioned, she's a best-selling author also. She has wisdom to command respect and simplicity to make you fall in admiration for her. That's her. I would always get short of adjectives when I have to put her in one frame because she has been someone who has really inspired me. She has inspired many women like me, many entrepreneurs like us, and that's Bindu Dalmia. We welcome you, ma'am. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Can you hear me, Pearl?
Hear you.
Good evening, everyone, and good evening, viewers. I'm as excited to be with all of you. And thank you so much, Pearl, for giving me a chance to be on this show. It's really a delight because I was looking forward to interacting, even if I can't see them. But I know you told me it's a very young audience and it's women. So for me, it's very, it's an honor to interact with young and ignited minds. I'm really humble and I'm really excited. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And as we have kind of profile you have got, the rich experience you have got, and all the way, the richer experience you've got, the simplicity of the life you live, and you have inspired people around the nation. We are going to see you someone who's actually working at the ground level for upliftment of our life.
Uh-huh.
So
It's
I
cutting
have,
up.
it's
It's
perfect.
cutting up, Priyank. थोड़ा
That's
cut हो
okay.
रहा है.
Don't worry, it will go live. It is going live and people are able to see you. I'm getting responses here on my phone. Since we are live on the two platform, I see it on my phone and I can read it to you so that there are no
Okay,
distractions. And but
no
all
problem.
our whoever, yeah, yeah. So, ma'am, we have always wanted to take the nugget of wisdom from you. You were mentored in Shiv Nadar Factory of Mind Machines in Thought Leaders, and that was in your formative year of 20s. Remaining
Yes.
paranoid in the pursuit of your goal was virtuous. Please share a story of your journey, and our viewers would be so interested to know what you have done and what you have achieved. I know it is a history. Whatever you have done in Hindustan
No,
Computer, it
no,
is a
it's a very
history. So
exciting
please
history.
share.
I will. I
Yeah.
will, and thank you. But you know, friends, these before I even start on my journey, we happen to be meeting under very, very troubled times as we face upheavals of a kind for which there is no historic precedence. We've never been through times like this. So the COVID is our collective tryst with destiny. While our forefathers, okay, they battled freedom struggle, they battled shortages, food scarcities, economic scarcities. We've had much less to complain about as a generation till COVID happened, you know. And after liberalization, the beauty is, Pearl, that the millennials grew up with higher literacy. They were a more meritocratic breed. Okay. They rejected dynastic privileges, whether it's in movies, whether it's in politics, whether it's in business. It was about meritocracy, being meritorious. You have enjoyed better living standards, Priyanka, you and your generation, and the people we are talking to. And you people have had a global experience which are always connected through social media. Our generation was not, we were much more insulated. The converse is also true that you're a very spoiled generation. You're used to instant gratification, instant credit card. You have an economy on demand where everything is delivered to your doorstep. In comparison, let me tell you, my generation grew up on financial and food scarcities, as I told you, a licensed Raj era of the government, cronyism, privileges of only the rich and dynastic families, and in politics also. And aside from that, we live with one channel, one Doordarshan channel, where one Chitrahar would come, or Krishi Darshan. We drove ambassador cars, radios, telegrams, MTNL landlines. That was how exciting our life was. Question is, where do we go from here now after COVID has struck? Because as we come out of this deep and dark tunnel which we have traveled, the world has turned topsy turvy. The nature of jobs have changed, right? Consumer behavior has altered. Business models have drastically altered. And human interactions have totally turned online and remote. We know that. So it lacks the warmth, the hug, the interface of normalcy with friends and family. How are we going to function in the new normal? These are things that strike everyone. It's time now to shake off the gloom and the fear paralysis that has struck all of us. Somewhere we've had 5 months to reinvent the wheel. And it's time to get back to the drawing board and script a new strategy going forwards. We'll have to do it for survival. However, let's go beyond cliches that lull us into just being complacent because the world out there has become much more difficult, much more competitive. And we each have to devise a navigation strategy to go through these times by building a physical, emotional, and a financial immunity. Yes, you heard right. I'm talking about financial immunity. There is something called financial immunity. And you've got to build that financial muscle and build your contingency of reserves in a very disciplined and calibrated way. So you remain untouched no matter what is going on in the world. Even as COVID lockdowns may be gradually easing, but anxiety about the world and economic prospects is going on intensifying. And there are reasons for worry because it is the sharpest economic downturn that we are facing after the 1930s. Okay, so this was my prelude to saying that, okay, we are meeting under very, very changed circumstances in the new normal. To answer your lovely question, Pearl, about life in my 1980s in the Shiv Nadar factory of mind machines, allow me a brief moment to give you a small flashback of the past to bridge the generational uh, gap. I was also your age, chasing unreal dreams that never let me sleep at night out of sheer excitement. I used to set punishingly high targets for myself because living on the edge just gave me a adrenaline high. I feel so excited to get to office, to wear my sari, to anything but sit at home. So work, I was not trained for it. I just got into it. I plunged into it. I was self-motivated. I had no motivator. And it was only a startup. So achieving self-imposed goals, which were already high, when I would achieve them, it would be like an Alice in Wonderland moment. Wow, it's so exciting. I mean, it just there were dreams, and when those goals came true, it made me restless because you can't rest on past laurels. See, don't forget, like in exercise, when you exercise, okay, you are only as good as your last workout. That's it. So when you achieved a high or a great goal in your life, in work, or in your personal life. You can't rest on it. That's gone. What next? So tomorrow is another day and another challenge. It's like a game you're constantly playing with yourself. And any marketer will tell you, that the highs and lows of winning or losing in the marketplace, they're very addictive, very addictive. So while I drove myself insane with high targets and setting high targets, I had this monster boss who is my brother-in-law and who gave even higher targets. So it made me even more paranoid and it made me more passionate. So the whole cycle was, it was just something that you're in the whirlwind and you got to get there. The strange thing is that today my other idol is the Prime Minister who is somewhat very similar. He is my total icon. And when we talk of targets and staying passionate and paranoid, look at the target our Prime Minister gave us despite a slowing economy before COVID. 5 trillion economy. Okay, where is that 5 trillion going to come from? Not my problem. You just got to do it. But you see, the important thing is that, great leaders, they teach you to be paranoid in the pursuit of your passion. And that's what even the Prime Minister has done. He's raised the bar so high that you've just got to get there, working it out backwards. It's not, I'm telling you, you get this target. You're not arguing back with your boss. You're saying, okay, go back home and work it backwards from here. How do I climb the ladder? That's your problem. You see, but the charm is, Pearl, that, leaders know better when they're setting up, people against the impossible. It drives them beyond their comfort zones. That's what a good leader is really about. And I tell you, the bottom line was so beautiful because by the age of 31, I'd made my little mini fortune at the age of 31. And I bought a prime residential address where I live. As years rolled by, my net worth increased year on year because I was disciplined and I learned the compounding power of savings. My parents had disciplined me. Though I did allow myself luxuries, which I can't do without, which I'm not asking anyone here to do without, but I was determined, as I would say to your generation and women, that don't ruin your future by living a life of excesses. Put simply, I had the discipline inculcated by my parents that I was not going to borrow, then spend, but instead I was going to earn, save, and then spend, which is our Indian culture, our Eastern culture compared to the Western credit card culture. Having said that, I don't view wealth as the only parameter that validates me or you or anyone. No, wealth is not a differentiator. And it's not a criteria that should validate anyone's self-worth. But it gives you a great feeling of emotional security and financial security. If Shiv Nadar motivated me in my youth, well, to chase big goals, as I said, my greatest icon today who drives me is the Prime Minister. And I'll tell you a very short story to illustrate this point, why I say it with regard to goals. I had the privilege some time back to go to the PM's residence to celebrate India's ease of doing business. Okay. And it was a very select gathering of World Bank people and things like that. The PM said one thing. He said that, he was reminiscing about his school days in Gujarat. And he said that his school teacher in Gujarat said to him, it's okay if you miss your target. What is not okay is to lower the benchmark of your target. There's no question of lowering. You always got to carry on raising your benchmarks. Friends, honestly, I say to you, staying passionate to pursue your dreams is not about me or my life that's going by. It is about you. It is about what a competitive world you all live in, where jobs are drying up, finances are drying up. How do you stay ahead of the curve?
Very rightly said, ma'am. I mean, it was so insightful. I could really now resonate more with the realities when you actually spoke out. So the kind of
Thank you.
competitive work so important to really stay passionate and stay paranoid at the same time. Because if
Obsessive.
you're
You just
paranoid,
got to be like, you have to be obsessive because there's
yeah,
no scope for luxury and being idle. You've got to be focused your whole time more than my generation. If I had driven myself crazy at that time, you people will have to drive yourself and self motivate yourself. There's no mummy, daddy, no teacher's going to do it. You have to drive yourself crazy. Simple.
exactly. So, viewers, youth especially, see this is what comes from the wisdom, and that's how she is here on Inspiring Lives today. She actually brings, she has lived a life of something which is called wisdom, complete consistency, and resilience. And she has really marked her journey. If you just search Bindu Dalmia ji on kind of content she writes, the kind of column she writes, you will fall in love with the wisdom she has. Uh, Usually one another question I have with you is like, though you have a lot of luxury, but I have seen you living a life of minimalist with high thinking and gratitude all the time. As a successful your era, what is your advice to women and youth of the nation of the generation? What is it?
Well, thank you for that observation. Thank you. But I'll tell you, minimalism comes with age. At your age, at a younger age, you will want to experiment. You will want to buy a pair of designer shoes, bags. Why not? Maybe it's easier for me to talk today, but yes, you realize the era in which you're living in, that today the only thing that will hold you in good stead is if you've got money in the bank. So if I had the luxury at that time, no one anticipated a disaster like COVID. Minimalism in my case came with age and experimentation. To me, minimalism is a need that decreases as you grow with wisdom, with intellectual and spiritual evolution. And you move to higher planes. You go beyond the material. And my sincere advice to youth and women is to become emotionally and financially Atma Nirbhar, as our Prime Minister said. There is no shortcut for that. It may sound like a grandmother talking or something, but this is advice over the years that has never gone wrong, what our parents and grandparents have taught us. You have to build your inner and emotional and financial reservoirs that are so strong and so resilient that you're able to bounce back with minimal downtime. Each day, introspect hard. That's part of being minimalistic. But do not allow temporary setbacks and failure to make you feel stigmatized. You can't stigmatize failure. Failure is it happens to all of us, and I personally have been broken many times. Yet I do believe that the human soul, and this I'm reading out and telling you from my diary. I do believe the human soul is endowed with a supreme and fierce determination to fight life's trials. I have experienced this time and again in my worst defeats. How did I endure those periods when I was dungeoned inside of a dark and long tunnel where I could not even see a glimmer of hope? I did so in silence, almost a meditative silence. I submitted myself before the will of the Supreme that I must treat this as a period of penance. I was ordained to undergo a trial for those I wronged knowingly in this lifetime or unknowingly in another lifetime. What we can do nothing about is karmic setbacks. Karmic setbacks come in the form of ill health, the loss of a love, passing away of loved ones. We are powerless to combat. But what we can do everything about is man made disaster. If today I cause you pain, or if I'm emotionally unintelligent and I'm hurting you, we both have to have that emotional intelligence to go beyond it. This is man-made pain. God-given pain. We can only pray, do penance, live. This is all about minimalism. Is more about deeper thoughts and shedding your obsessive obsessiveness to go in for retail therapy, go shopping. No, that's not a occupation. It's a lovely pastime once in a while to indulge in, but it's not a time pass. I mean, it's a time pass, but it's not something that uh, it can't be your everyday. Going to kitty parties and going to lunches. It's so unfruitful and such a waste of time. And time is the only commodity we all have. When I was confronted with the biggest blows of my life, I'll tell you something, and this is part of minimalism. Sorrow never let me bend my head in servitude. Conversely, when I did come close to achieving my goals, pride also never allowed me to raise my head in arrogance. This taught me equanimity, कि दुख सुख में स्थिर रहना है हमको. दुख सुख में स्थिर रहने की क्षमता हम लोग सबको चाहिए. By midlife, I had acquired, like the Bible says, it's a biblical serenity to accept all that I was powerless to change, the ability to fight back with my back against the wall for anything I could change, and the wisdom to know the difference between what I can fight back and what is, I just say, that is in God's hands. Through each adversity, I acquired a very steely resolve to keep at expanding my mind with knowledge, disciplining my body with exercise, and developing my character with nobility of intent as much as I could. There was no time to waste. What or who should I fear if I kept raising my standards and my consciousness? I feared no one. Who or what should I have feared as I kept competing with myself and nobody else? Each time inching out of my comfort zone by learning a new skill or interacting with diverse people and seeing how do they come to grips with their challenges. We must always remember that our circumstances don't define us. Even Oprah Winfrey said that. What your circumstances are, it doesn't define you. It's how you overcome them. Because we have no control over external events. What we can control is our response to black swan events. What we can control is to break negative cycles of repeated behavior patterns. We all fall into repeated behavior patterns which are repetitive. Idea is to be conscious of it and cut that cycle. What we can control is our mind, finances, the choices we make. It all comes out of minimalism and a life of discipline. Discipline in your, I'll go back to discipline because discipline in your nutrition, discipline in exercise, enlarging your mindscape through constant upgradation of knowledge and skills, and learning how to convert knowledge into wealth. We all, every woman, every youth must know how do you convert knowledge into wealth, into assets. Having knowledge is of no use. You can just file it in the library. Knowledge, learning all the time, whatever knowledge you're acquiring. Even our new education policy that's just been announced, it is more about developing multiple skills. And please remember that India is in the midst of Industry 4.0. To adapt to this, jobs are evaporating. You will have to learn new skills, artificial intelligence, blockchain, algorithms, the works. What your skills are today will be irrelevant tomorrow. You will have to continuously multi-program, and learn new skills. Otherwise, you are obsolete. You will not fit into any job scenario. You meaning me, you, anyone. And also what is very important is that, lifespans have risen because of, earlier people lived till 60 or 70. Today, people are living longer lives. So how do you, what would you do when you're going to live, God willing, beyond 1890? How would you spend one's time? Because if you are not relevant to the new generation, they have no time for you. You've got to be alone. All of us are alone at the end of the day. Number two, what does one do with your finances? You have to stretch it till the age of 80 or 90. Are any of us going to then be dependent on children or grandchildren? It's a long term planning we have to do in our youth. And these years don't come back because everyone has a peak earning period of 30, 40 years, 40 years. Each year, each moment is precious in productivity, in earning, in knowledge.
Well said, ma'am. I was actually, glued to your, the insight what you were sharing. 30 to 40 years, mostly people are
It's a
getting
peak productive
into
time.
their
It is your peak productive
it's
time.
a peak. Right. So whatever you invest in there is actually your, the future life is likely
You
to
have to
be
be
like,
future
to
ready.
be based on life, right?
It's not like we're talking last year, 2019. The future has arrived. You're not waiting for no future. The future is here. The future has arrived. Now deal with it. So those who lagged behind in knowledge, in not skilling themselves, constantly skilling. People, even who are working with the biggest corporations, have to parallelly upgrade their knowledge by going on to some university online and learning a new skill applicable to their job. No knowledge goes waste. Any knowledge that we gain will be stored in our minds and some time will come in, handy. So the trick is the discipline of constant learning. There's no break from it. In our era, you finished your school or college and you were finished with education. You are not finished with education, Pearl. Your entire generation from now on, as long as they live, they're not done with education because this was a finding of a McKinsey report where they said you've got to commit yourself to lifelong learning because, I repeat, the age factor has increased. We're going to live longer lives. Okay, we're not talking of COVID, but otherwise, because of medical advances, we're going to live longer lives. How are we going to live longer lives? What will we do with our time with that? Are we going to waste it shopping, playing cards, partying? And how long will that satisfy your soul?
And now I'm feeling so proud on myself that I have actually not invested my any time into parties and shopping.
Don't
So
you feel
I'm kind of feeling
don't
proud.
you feel
Yeah,
great, Priyanka?
seriously, I've been
No, but
people
you
find
must
me.
do it. You must do it also. Your age group has to do it. And I still do it, but I do it in moderation when I have nothing better. Or I say, no, I need because look, one other big problem that's happening is even before COVID, and it's worsened with COVID, we're living with a parallel pandemic of depression. Depression, now the Sushant Singh Rajput, whether it was depression or whatever, I myself didn't know that I was a victim of depression. Till one day Deepika Padukone opened up about it. And she came out of the closet and talked 3 years back. And I said, my goodness, I didn't know that when she talked of the symptoms, it was a revelation for me. And I said, no, it's not a stigma. I have been a depressant. I have to deal with it and get over it because there is nobody else who's going to treat you. You've got to Google it, you've got to talk to a doctor, it's like a cold or cough. But it is something we have to be aware of that depression is a reality. So, coming back to when you say about parting, see, Priyanka, parting is also important, and a friend's circle is very important. I won't underplay that. But it's not one's only life. Just as I say, marriage is important, children are important. It's a very, very important institution. But every one of us has to have a parallel, productive life. We all need that parallel. And if you don't, and just being a simple housewife or a simple one auntie who goes to coffee parties and lunches, it is something you will burn yourself out within 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. Then what happens? at midlife. When children have grown up, they've gone to college, you're sitting alone. How many movies are you going to watch?
Exactly. So that's a blend of life, we need to experiment with. Thank you so much. That's something, person like of your intellectual skill can bring everything in a very simpler way. And that's the nugget of truth. And I'm sure a lot of viewers are going to benefit too. Ma'am, you are working also
Thank you, Pearl.
here on financial literacy, and you are asking them to include them. Why do we do a lot of savings, right? But we never know how to basically make our wealth out of the saving. That's what I think we all of us lack this ability. And how will have financial literacy help us building the nation for future? You are really focusing on it. I've seen a lot of posts. I've seen a lot of your interviews. You are always advocating this financial
It's
literacy to be
cutting.
okay. Just let me know if it is okay now. Can I repeat the question? Wisdom by any chance? Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. We are
I
very much
heard you,
clear. You
yeah.
are with
But though it was a little broken, but I get the drift. You see, Pearl and all my young friends, I'll say one thing. I firmly believe that every woman must be empowered to take control of her financial destiny. We each have our karmic destiny, which we are born with, but our financial destiny can be shaped by us step by step, almost in a scientific precision, if we just acquire the basic knowledge. Contrary to popular belief, financial planning is not only for the rich. Instead, the rich also became rich because, and they became wealthy because they planned their lives financially. So it's not important what is the amount of earning. I started my career earning 3,000 rupees a month. How did I grow it? I just learned that this, my mother and father and my grandparents taught me the compounding power of money. You put away it is nothing, it's no rocket science, it is again going back to a life of discipline. We've heard of an emotional quotient. You know of an intellectual quotient, right? There are new quotients that have been added today: happiness quotient and financial quotient. You've got to sharpen your financial quotient. Youngsters have to learn how to, because it increases your financial well being, it increases your happiness quotient. They're all interlinked. When you're in control of your finances, you're so secure. And the first thing that I would say to any youth, your first priority is to buy a good home, a home that will be your security and a roof forever so that you don't live a life. It's anyone's priority. It's the way one was mentored. Every woman, to my mind, must seek the opportunity to unleash her economic potential and learn the art of converting your knowledge, as I said earlier, and your skills into wealth. Any knowledge you have, or any artistic skill or academic skill, you will learn how to convert it to a livelihood. Please remember, as I said earlier, your peak years of earning are 40 years. Consolidate your earnings in that period of time. Because if you live till 18, and go back to that, how do you intend to stretch your finances if you've not earned them in this period? That's why for me, it's an ongoing thirst for knowledge, skilling, constant upskilling. And one thing more important today is not just financial literacy, digital literacy. Do you know women in India are digitally not literate? Okay. When our youth live a life beyond their means, it leads to a lot of credit stress. It leads to credit stress. And financial literacy teaches you the importance of learning the compounding power of money. Financially strong women, it's also been found, are less subject to male dominance or domestic violence, because even men think twice. And financial literacy inculcates in you discipline of not living a life in excesses. I today work with the Niti Aayog as a passion and commitment. And it's my deepest desire, Pearl, to see every woman financially literate and included in the decision making of a family financially for the asset planning. What men do very often is it's a very patriarchal system and they just brush aside, a woman's opinion or don't even consider her opinion. Bit by bit, savings grow and they enable us to buy a home or whatever. That what you put aside, when the time comes, you will realize, my God, it is something that has, it's like an umbrella over my head. The objective for me is to start that revolution to change people's investment habits. Because an example how fast a woman can learn financial literacy is how fast in the villages women or men learned how to use WhatsApp. Was it any just how to forward a WhatsApp or write a WhatsApp? Trust me, when you get down to a good financial planner, it is as easy as WhatsApp and so rewarding. And in a global world that we live in the new India of 2019, 2020 onwards, we cannot have 48% of our population, which is women, committed to being just domestic housewives, but unaware of their civil, legal, and financial rights. You have to be Atmanirbhar. Know all this about civil rights, legal rights, financial rights, the basics of which must come into the school syllabus. It's not just for women, men also need to know it at a younger age. We all have a responsibility to our family, but we have an equal responsibility to ourselves to come into our own astitva and a fuller bloom. When the mind of a woman is in full bloom, she's giving birth to an idea which can impact not only her life but entire future generations. Each of us is gifted with a unique calling as distinct as our fingertips. That is our identity. And the idea is that to develop that unique gift to perfection.
That was so deep. That was actually so deep. I could really, visualize the pictures. I could really visualize, the mistakes perhaps we have been doing growing up and not having the.
Not you, no, 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 but you at
Yes,
your age, Pearl, that is you make mistakes, but they're not blunders, they're not mistakes, because when you live life consciously and you're always introspecting and in your heart writing a diary, or you're living a life that is very conscious. You're able to check your own mistakes. When you write a journal or a diary, you're not sharing with anyone. It's only between your soul and you.
yeah. Thank you, ma'am. That was actually very deep. Thank you. In fact, trust me, a lot of universities and even in schools, we are never taught. And imagine if you were taught something like this. Perhaps our entire future would be quite Atmanirbhar, quite, inspiration to each other, and were in a power to perhaps uplift and finances, and we would have been the world's best economy, perhaps, if this was. So you are
Yes,
actually working on
yes,
a
very
subject.
well said.
Yes.
Indeed, very well said, Priyanka. Very, very well said.
So the
I
kind of
totally
population
agree with
we
you.
have, yes, the kind of population we have, and if we have studied such subjects at a core level and we would have known how to compound our wealth, we could be one of the strongest economy of all the time. I mean, no,
But
undoubtedly.
you know, the funny thing is that in the course of my research, Priyanka, I found that even in the United States, which is an advanced, such a developed country, women's financial literacy, their digital literacy is good. Their financial literacy is not that great. Even men don't have such good financial literacy. It is a subject we have to learn and self-learn. No one can teach you. I can't ask you how much are you earning, how much is my friend earning. No, you will have to be the light unto yourself to drive yourself. Just like in marketing, I drove my targets. In finances, I have to drive my own targets.
Right. Thank you
You
so
got to
much,
get
ma'am.
yourself, not at all. It's an ongoing process, ongoing.
Yeah, right. Thank you so much, ma'am. Because we have seen you talking about a lot of policies when we have seen your even interviews about the fight. Please tell us what social and economic changes are taking place during this COVID time, and where are the new avenues of the growth and development for our people? Because everybody is investing highly into their education and their children with a good percentage, they have a good hope. But what is that they need to spend their time into the new avenues of growth and employment and opportunities? And how can we become future ready and the generation next become future ready?
Briefly, I'll put it this way, a lot of it I've covered, which is today knowledge is your new wealth. Data and knowledge is the new wealth, which we discussed is something you'll have to carry on acquiring. Please remember what is happening with all economies is that frequent lockdowns are a forced period for us to pause and reflect. You got to treat this 6 month period of a lockdown as a sabbatical for learning so that when the economy fully opens up, you are wiser, smarter, and are able to hit the ground running. This period of the lockdown is your own learning period, your own sabbatical with yourself. Because a lot of job opportunities have shrunk and there's no room for complacency. There is no room for leisure, there's no room for complacency. Briefly, the new avenues of growth after COVID are work from home, for women especially. Work from home, earn from home, learn from home. Everything you can do from home, which saves you commuting time. Now, for example, Pearl, Google, Amazon, Hindustan Lever, companies like Cognizant, they're all extending the work from home culture, at least for a year, year and a half. This has, their findings is that it has raised productivity levels, eliminated commuting time, and given rise to the gig economy. The gig economy, as you know, is a freelance economy. So tomorrow you can freelance if you prove your aptitudes with 2, 3 companies. So that's the gig economy where your skills and expertise doesn't mean going to office, traveling 1 hour, going 1 hour, coming. That time, if you gained your competence, you've upped it. It's time for you to plug and play and try for 2, 3 different jobs which you're able to multi-program. It is called the gig economy, as you know. So it's a freelance economy. There is a lot of scope that's opening up in this sphere with, as you know, e-commerce, because it's again work from home. We keep on ordering online shopping, digital finance, telemedicine, healthcare. Look at the amount of edtech platforms and online learning that's happening. Today, you can access any university in the world sitting in your home, but you can also teach. If you're competent, you can become a teacher equally and apply for a job anywhere for just giving lectures. So, social commerce and anything online is giving men and women the opportunity to multitask and multiply. You may not, the concept of a 9 to 5 job has gone. You will have to get hours now of work, and that market will be thriving.
Yeah, so well said. And that's how we have seen the trend changing now recently. We have seen now even there is like unlock process has started.
Yeah,
Still companies are continuing people to have their on the job, work from home because they even realized it, the kind of saving they are having and the kind of raise, people are motivated and that they're able to work more. So even into the regular jobs, we have seen this trend. I have a lot of my friends, they are working now, working from home. And obviously their time is also, they have flexibility of the time, plus they are near the family, their happiness level is also increased. They are able to focus on their health and they're able to see things
absolutely.
simultaneously.
Absolutely. What we talked about earlier, life is about 3 disciplines. I keep repeating your nutritional discipline, your physical discipline of exercise, emotional discipline, and financial discipline. So long you've got them sorted, you are a winner and a super winner. You can fight anything. But when we talk of the nature of jobs, you can learn from home, earn from home. What more does one want? Today, women in villages, all they need is a smartphone, and that I've been wanting it that the prices come down, wherein talks about it. But when gadgets prices are affordable and little digital literacy takes place, think of the plight of women in tier one and tier two and tier three cities. They'll all be able to earn, work, learn from home. So that will be, and that was happening little before the COVID lockdown. Now we have no choice; it's become a way of life. Digitization has been thrust upon us. So, as the Google head Pichai said, that about 10 years of digitization, we have had to compress within 6 months. What would have taken us 10 years to digitize and get there? We have been forced to have so many extra hours of digitization per person within 5 to 6 months.
And we have seen our Prime Minister being actually quite a visionary because he started digitalization at a different level, even at a root level of the banks, digitalization of your Aadhaar, digitalization of your, residential ship. He
Yeah.
has started it quite long time back. Perhaps he had a good vision, and that's how we are able to now cope up in
Imagine.
a better way.
But you see,
Imagine.
Pearl, I'll tell you another thing. People, maybe your parents' generation, the Prime Minister, our generation, can you imagine what a struggle it is to learn to be digitally savvy? But what would have happened if, like you've given the example of the Prime Minister, what if the Prime Minister was not digitally savvy?
Uh,
He was also brought up in an era where we, with pen, paper, pencil. He is today ultra digital savvy. So, what did our generation have to do? We had to leapfrog and jump up to your generation to learn. So, there is no age for learning. As I go back to my principle number one, it is constant learning. You have to be abreast of the latest technology. Otherwise, why would you talk to me at your age and my age? What's the commonality? We've got to be, tomorrow as you grow older, you will have to be on par with your children mentally and the next generation.
Exactly. And when I look at you, I really find you somebody who's having intellectual skills at such a ground level that even if you talk to somebody of like, say, 30 years lesser than you or 30 years elder than you will still make an impact with your kind of wisdom you bring. Every I spoke to you, perhaps I have got like thousands of universities lesson right in my brain and write something
I'm
that you can
so touched. I'm so touched, Pearl.
do.
Yes,
Honestly,
I have a
you
lot
have.
of young friends, and I'll tell you, it's not about me imparting Dadiji wisdom. It's the other way around. Because when youngsters talk, I like to listen. I don't like to talk. I like to, for me, I believe you've got to be a disciple to life. When youngsters are talking, listen. It's our job to listen and imbibe their new thoughts. How dull would it be if we lived in a time warp and we talked about हमारे ज़माने में ये था और वो था, कुछ नहीं था. अभी की बात करो. Are you a contemporary person? Are you with it today? Are you with the program today? Buck up. It's for all of us. You either
Well said, man. Thank you.
perform, you either perform or you perish.
Right. And there is this question from our viewers. There are two, three students who are writing us the question. Can I take one question from the viewer side? So they are saying that in university we go and get a degree for a job security. Now, as you mentioned, the jobs are vanishing. So, do you suggest the youth to take the entrepreneurship as a profession? Entrepreneurship instead of job, should they start entrepreneurship?
You must try. No, the first necessary step for any student, don't rush into entrepreneurship. You need a backup reserve of money. You must get into internship first. You need work experience before you take a dive, spend your money or your parents' money and blow it up. You will make mistakes. The period after education is internship, and internship is a very vital period of life. After studies, do not miss out that period of internship. Then go into entrepreneurship after you've saved a little bit of money and gained experience at someone's expense. That's how internship works.
Thank you so much.
Entrepreneurship, it is your ultimate goal, but you can't jump it. You can't jump the step from education, still just become a businessman like that. No. Even in the biggest corporate houses, whether it's Tata, Birla, whatever, children start at the bottom of the league, bottom of the ladder. Why? They've got to learn the ropes from manufacture to marketing to finance to administration. How can you just suddenly turn into an entrepreneur? It's unreasonable.
So well
And
said,
it
ma'am.
leads to a loss of money. It leads to a loss of money, and you'll be taking loans and wasting that money if it doesn't turn productive. And a life on loans, even for business, can land one in a lot of mess, Pearl.
Thank you so much. There is one question for you. How, in spite of so many achievements to your credit, how do you remain so grounded, so humble, so loving, so admirable all the time? What is that
Thank
secret?
you. I'll tell you, Pearl. As you grow in years, uh, there is a trusteeship principle, as there is in the Gita, and something that Gandhiji also practiced, which was when you grow up and you grow with your assets and your age and wisdom, you realize that you're only a trustee of what you own. It's only for that life period that you are a tenant of that possession. You're not the landlord. And you will also observe that the most successful people practice and exude detachment. Detachment from material, detachment from outcomes, detachment from hurt. It's not easy. You have to walk the path. But you've got to get into the mode of nishkam karma. Do your best and leave the rest to God. That's what uh, that's what it is all about to me. Let me give you an example to answer that when you say how do you take achievements in your stride. I'll again go back to saying don't rest on your last laurel. Modi ji, when he was in this election mode last year, he was asked, "Sir, who do you consider your competitor? Who's your biggest competitor?" He just shrugged his shoulder and said, "I have none. I am my competitor." What do I do when someone is running me down or has put a line in front of me? He said, "I just draw a longer line for myself and let them remain where they are." So you're always competing with yourself. You're not competing with anybody else.
So, that's what makes you actually stand so tall on your grounds, on your moral, on your values, and on your teachings.
That's right.
We have always seen your articles really bringing a lot of truth, a lot of nuggets of wisdom which can be implemented
Thank
in your
you.
life at a like a very nugget of wisdom in a very small biteable size.
Thank you
I
so
even
much.
was so fascinated by your one article which was like, "Don't buy the brand, be the brand," and that
I
broke
was
my heart.
going to come to this. Pearl, before your next question, I know what you said, that what would be your advice to youth? And I'm coming to that. Each one of us is a brand. Please remember that. You will be, and what is a brand? It's about personal branding. Like a Nirma, like a soap, like a cologne, like anything. You will build your brand. Okay. And a brand is a distinct identity. It's your passport to future life. It's a cumulative of your CV, your experience, your character, your credit history, your digital footprints. What you write on Twitter and Facebook. Today, before people interview your generation, well, they even look up what kind of posts you put up in Facebook, what kind of posts you put up in Twitter. So they get an idea of what is called your psychographics. Branding is something that will never be eliminated. You can't delete beyond a point how many tweets you put up. How many Facebook posts are you going to delete, or Instagram? Your branding is being built with your digital footprints, with your credit footprints. You don't return money to the banks, your credit goes down. So branding it's a mixture of many components, from academic qualifications, your job credentials, your personal credentials, your body language, your dress style, your social graces. It's a whole package. So you and I come as a package. And before we come on a show like this, or before we even walk into a party, there's a brand that will be built around you over the years. You become that brand that you're carving out for yourself. Every conscious moment you are growing that brand or diminishing that brand.
So well said, ma'am. The choices we make actually makes us stand out. And as we have always seen, there are some people who are anyway so well presentable, but some of the history, perhaps that's the psychography which we have got in our mind about them, and you just like try to little step away, getting into that
No, and
mixing zone.
also another thing that your youth does, another thing the youth, and even my generation does, any new handbag, any new purchase, you want to put it on Facebook, on Instagram, any new holiday. There's a beauty in keeping a part of your life private. Does everything have to scream money? Does everything have to be a show of experience? No. And you'll realize after some time, what a waste of time is it just doing social media or WhatsApp forwards.
Exactly. Thank you so much. I have read that article and I have by hearted that article, be the brand, don't buy the brand. And everything in that article I actually implement in my life. And I'm happy to see that at least like 80% of those dimensions I've been living up to. And
I'm
even
so
feel so
happy. I'm
satisfied.
so happy. You see,
So
we
yeah,
all basically, Priyanka, we have a set point, like temperature. All of us have a set point. And we keep going back to that set point. Idea is to raise the set point continuously, because the mind has so much elasticity. It can absorb, it's like a sponge. The more you expand it, the more the mind takes on. So you have to raise, all of us have to keep on raising our set points.
very, very rightly said, ma'am. I couldn't agree more. In fact, that's how one has to be all the life. You have to be ever evolving. And that's what you said. In the first introduction, I said you are ever evolving. I've never seen you like settling with your own self. So there is another dimension, and it was so difficult into a frame of certain because you have done format and you have come out so well in those niche. So that is something you created niche, you have created brand for yourself in every era, wherever you have touched. Now I have this rapid
Even when
one line.
someone's not looking at you, you are a brand. You have to be careful. Even if someone's not looking, you are doing
Exactly
something with your life that's building your thought, your character, your attitude.
true. Now I have some one liner for you. See, the time
Sure.
just ran out, and I even didn't realize we are almost near to the closing of 1 hour. I could go
Thank
on
you.
and on and take a lot of nugget of wisdom from you.
Thank
And
you. Thank you. Then I think
so
we
I
can
would,
jump one or two of them. I want to come to, I know what you have in mind.
sure, please, please.
Then can I get on to my favorite liners
Yes,
and jump
yes,
jump through one or two questions, which will take me just 2 minutes. Which
sure.
was, you asked me, and I've got that question.
Okay.
Is a second. Uh, I let go of fear or loss by. Can I jump to that question?
Sure, sure, you can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Each time I'm confronted with fear or loss, I strengthen my resolve to fight back and try to emerge stronger as Alma Iqbal's verse echoes in my mind. खुद को कर बुलंद इतना कि हर तकदीर से पहले खुदा बंदे से पूछे बता तेरी रजा क्या है. Put in English, it is elevate yourself so high that even God, before issuing his decree on you, asks, tell me what is your intent. खुद ही को कर
Very,
बुलंद इतना कि हर तकदीर से पहले खुदा बंदे से पूछे बता तेरी रजा क्या है.
and ma'am, I have heard this before also from many platforms, but when you spoke, it actually like took away the heart with it. So it just like took away the heart with it, right? Exactly, because you have been living life like this, where every conscious decision, every conscious choice, you have created a future which you actually wanted for yourself. You have created a life which you, and now you are helping millions of women across India, millions of
Thank
youth
you.
across India to really live up to the life and sharing your nuggets with us. It is such an absolute honor. I
Thank
cannot
you. For me too, it's a great
thank you
honor.
enough. No, I really cannot thank you. So beautiful, the entire session. In fact, I'm going to watch it over and over again because I
Priyanka,
was,
before you go, I want to give you one more because I have it with me, and this is for the viewers before we part. The other favorite quote that I want, and everyone, it is etched in my heart. It's from Rabindranath Tagore, and he said in the Gitanjali, "This is my prayer to thee, my Lord. Strike at the penury in my heart. Give me the strength lightly to bear my joys and sorrows. Give me the strength to never disown the poor or to bend my knees before insolent might." I would end with that. And best of luck to you, Pearl, for these lovely shows you're doing. Best of
thank
luck to
you so
all my
much.
young viewers and young friends. Stay blessed, stay beautiful, stay bold.
Stay paranoid and stay passionate because that's what
Oh, more
we.
important than that, stay paranoid and stay passionate. You will be healthy forever.
Yes. Thank you so much. I cannot really thank you enough from all the viewers' side. Trust me, I was so much glued into the conversation we were having, and I didn't want to miss any of the nugget of the wisdom that I missed out a lot of comments and questions which people have showed us. And it was very, because I was so much involved in you, I was like so much in sync with you that now we could go back and I will try to reply to the questions of the viewers. And I'm sure a lot of them you have catered to. So thank you so much for your time,
Thank
ma'am.
you,
It was
Priyanka. Thank you, and God bless you all. Till we meet
uh,
again.
yes, till we meet again. So you have any questions for Miss Bindu Dalmia, please drop in there. I will try to send her and we will try to have her answers and I'll try to send it to you as well within the stipulated time. So thank you so much for those nugget
God
of
bless
wisdom.
and thank you. I've
Love,
enjoyed it
love
as
and
much,
admiration
Priyanka.
always. Love and
I've
admiration.
enjoyed it as much as you've enjoyed taking it on.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It means a
See
lot.
you.
See you. Bye bye.
To me too.